So let me start off by pointing something out to you that's probably going to change your perception of art forever. In reality, there are no lines. Remember that whole spiel that I gave at the elements of art and said that lines happen from here to here and A to B, stuff like that, and the difference between the lines are defined lines and implied lines? Well, in reality, implied lines are the only things that actually exist. Now, a defined line can happen, but only whenever you have a subject matter that is in front of a black silhouette or a black background, but even then you still have details inside of that object. So in reality, lines don't actually exist. So how are lines made? Well, lines are made by the difference of values between two different objects. So for instance, if you look at my hand right here, obviously you can see that there is some kind of a line that happens right there. However, if you look at it in black and white, you can see that there's just a transition of colors. For instance, right here, yeah, that might be a black line between my shirt and my arm, but if you look at it over here, that's not a black line, that's a gray line. And as you go over here, you can see that the color variations are totally different. That is because there is no black line around anything in reality. So how do you create a realistic looking image without actually drawing a black line? Well, the trick to this is something that the art world does. It's called sketching. So you first start off by sketching something and planning it out, and then you take that sketch, transfer it over to something else, and use that very lightly traced image of your sketch to create your realistic artwork just using shading. So yeah, if you remember back whenever we covered value scale and shading and we made that really fancy looking square where you held your pencil a very specific way and you went around like that in small circles and value shaded in. Yeah, that is why we had that lesson, because that is how you create something that looks realistic. You don't put a black line around it. You make different values with it, because with the different values that you make, it makes a implied transition or an implied line in between the background and the foreground. And that's what we're going to be working on for the next 3 days. So in the next 3 days, what we're going to be doing, you're going to be coming up with a basic sketch for day 1. And then you're going to be transferring that over to another page very lightly that you are then going to shade and make it look realistic. It takes time. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you, when you think that you're done, you're not. Do it again, and not just do the whole project again. I mean, shade it more. Look at what you're drawing.
Look at it! Look at it! Look at it! I want all of you to look at it!
Okay, you're not going to be able to complete an entire drawing in 5 minutes. It's not possible. And if you think it is possible, you're not doing it right. Do it for at least 2.5 days, because that's how long it's going to take you. It will take you that long. And more than likely, you're probably not going to get finished. But that's okay, because in art, it doesn't matter if you get finished. It matters that you tried. Photograph what you did, turn it in, let me see it. But I'm going to go ahead and jump into the lesson, which is drawing shoes. And yes, you actually have to select from the images of shoes that I have provided, because believe it or not, there's a lot of inappropriate pictures whenever you look up pictures of shoes. Who would have known? Select from the pictures that I have on there. There's like 60 some pictures of shoes. If you can't find a picture of shoes that you like, then draw a picture of shoes that you hate. I don't care, but pick from the selection that we have, okay? Don't be looking up other pictures. Okay, Let's go ahead and get started with the lesson. So when you start this project off, first pick a picture from the selection that we have available. And yes, the selection is in the Google Classroom. It is a link to the Google Drive that has 60 plus pictures of shoes that you can pick from. Pick one of those. And if you don't like any of those, then pick one that you absolutely hate from it. I don't care, but you need to pick one of those shoes. Now, whenever you go and you draw those shoes, I want you to block it off into basic shapes. Just block it off in general. Then use those lines as your sketch. Sketch it out, draw it big. It's going to make it easier to shade later. And then once you get your basic sketch done, where you have your details in there as much as you can, then I want you to go in, take a blank piece of paper and trace over the main lines, but do it lightly. And you're not tracing your reference image. Do not trace your reference image. You are tracing over your basic sketches, your lines that you had before, your definitive lines. You are drawing them lightly on the new sheet of paper. That's why I said draw it large, because it's going to be a lot easier for you to shade it later. Now, once you have your image transferred over, you are then going to look at what you are drawing. Go lightly with the shading. You are going to be shading everything, all of it, and you need to really look at what you are shading in. Get those color variations perfect. It's going to take you a while to get it. Build up the colors. Do not rush it. Build up the shading. The more time you spend on the small little details, the more realistic it's going to look. This project is going to take you every bit of 2.5 to 3 days to even begin to complete it. Just this one drawing by itself, for me, took me almost 3 hours. So I know it's going to take you time. I am not looking for perfection, but I am looking for you to actually follow the instructions. Now, when you go and shade it in, you are going to need to really observe what you're doing. The transition from shades, in reality, there are no solid black lines. You need to really observe it. There's going to be small transitional changes that you are going to have to accommodate for. Now, day one, I want you to sketch it out. Block it in. Make sure you know what you're doing. Day two, you are going to be starting to shade in your main artwork, and it's probably going to take you from day 2 to day 3 to complete. Try and draw it large. I hope you all enjoy the video. Please continue watching the rest of this so you know exactly what to do. If you need to pause it and slow it down, you can do so. Thank you all. I hope you enjoy the lesson.